Hello and welcome. If you're new here, my name is Joe, and I rant about the things that I think we need to do to prepare for the coming effects of climate change. If you've been here before, welcome back. And welcome to part 3 in this 3-part series in how to build the houses of the future. So in part 1, I went through the components of a house and how we build houses today. In part 2, I went through the problems with houses today as told by home inspectors, and also mentioned 3 goals that I think the homes of the future need to be able to achieve. Number 1, they should be built to be a lot more durable. The coming weather that we'll be facing due to climate change is going to be a lot more severe in more places, more often, and our houses need to be ready for that. They should be made out of recycled materials. There's plenty of things in a house that could be replaced with something else, which I'll get into in this video. And the third thing is, the houses of the future should be off-grid. They should be able to generate and store their own water and electricity, which I'll also show. But first, let's take a look at how I finished up part 1. So here we see a schematic of a house today. The basement, the wooden frame, all the other components. These will be the things I'll be addressing from a futuristic standpoint. But let me jump right ahead to the end and go to what a house of the future could look like from the outside. Now this doesn't look too much different. You might notice there are no wires going to the house, and this doesn't indicate the size that houses of the future could be. There could be another floor, this could be a lot wider and deeper. Again, this will just be a schematic. But let's get into what is behind the walls, under that roof, and under the house that makes this so much different and so much more modern. Let's start with an open piece of land and build the foundation. Now this foundation looks a lot different than the foundations of today, which are normally made of cement and typically either a slab, crawl space, or basement. I envision something like a deck, or the way a pier is built. Something that lifts the building off the ground, which is the primary purpose of a foundation, which is to hold the structure off of the ground and away from moisture. In this case, if the building's off the ground completely and there's no foundation that can be compromised by moisture, there's nothing to worry about in terms of the foundation ever becoming damaged, if this is the foundation. The frames of houses today are made of wood, normally spruce, pine, or fir. This is actually an opportunity to use a different material, a recycled material. I mean, the frame of the house is not something that you ever see, but it is something that's never supposed to corrode or rot. So instead of using organic materials, and then sometimes treating it with chemicals or coating them with chemicals so they're mold resistant or last longer, let's use materials that we otherwise have nowhere else to put. Instead of filling up our oceans of plastic, let's make building materials out of them and build our frames out of them. Now, how strong do these things need to be? Well, the material scientists and engineers can figure that out. But until someone is actually trying to figure it out, it's not going to happen. Next comes the sheathing, which in today's houses, on the interior walls, is normally made of drywall, or which is really just 2 pieces of cardboard sandwiched around gypsum. And the exterior walls, which are made of oriented strand board, which is really just a bunch of wood chips glued back together into panels. So today we're using basically chalk inside of our houses and a whole bunch of glue holding pieces of wood together on the outside of the houses. This is an opportunity to actually replace both of these with recycled materials. The other thing about sheathing that should be different in the future, it should be easily removed. When we build houses today, when the drywall is put up, the screw holes are plastered over, the seams are plastered over, and then that is painted over, they're built with a sense of permanence. Imagine every time you brought your car to the shop, they actually had to cut open the car body, do the work, and then weld it all back together, instead of having a hood that can be opened. Cars are built knowing that the parts are going to need to be replaced, they're going to need to be accessed, and they managed to do this by making it watertight. Why can't we do this with houses as well? Next comes the shingles and the siding, which in the future, these could all be photovoltaic, meaning solar panels. There's no reason why something that's going to sit in the sun all day shouldn't generate electricity while it's doing so. Next come the downspouts and gutters, which are used today to get water away from the foundation. I'm thinking that water that's coming out of the sky should be collected instead of thrown away. And that's basically what we're doing with it, is trying to get rid of it as fast as it's coming down. we should be storing this, which I'll show you in just a minute. Next we have the insulation, or actually maybe not. It could be that the sheathing in the future is also the insulation. Next are the windows and doors. Now the windows in the future, they could be self-tinting. Maybe there won't be a need for curtains. Perhaps they could serve as television screens as well, or maybe art. Who knows? But one thing they need to be is a lot stronger. Who knows what kinds of things will be flying through the air, debris, whatever else that these stronger storms will be throwing around. So, and I think we'll need to take advantage of natural light more in the future. Next comes the plumbing, which shows pipes that the gutters are actually draining into and storage tanks under the house. One thing not shown here would be another source of water in the form of condensation. If in the attic space there were condensers, I mentioned in the last video, I explained how condensation works and how if you take like a, and I'm sure you've all seen this, if you take a soda can, put it on the counter, you walk away, come back in a few minutes, it's covered in water droplets. There's water vapor available in the air that we could just force to condense. The issue is an energy. Right now we have condensers and all kinds of equipment, air conditioning, dehumidifiers. There's a pan you have to drain because you're getting moisture out of the air. That's what it's doing, is it's forcing condensation to occur. We can have these kinds of units as a source of water in the future, in addition to rainfall being a source of water. There should also not be a need to get rid of the sewage. I'm sure there'll be some kind of technology in the future that allows for, instead of pumping out into a sewage system that is then sent out to the municipal water system, on a household level, they could be collected and reprocessed. Urine can be turned into fertilizer, and everything else can be composted. As long as machines are doing it and humans don't have to get anywhere near it until you get the final product, I'm sure people will be happy with that. Next is the electrical system, which shows the roof and siding tied into a series of batteries that can be put up into the attic space and then provide the source of electricity to the house. Next are the HVAC systems, which I envision being on a per room basis, kind of like the way hotels are today. This would allow for each room to be set to its own conditions and also allow for an easier balance of airflow throughout the house. Now if we just slap some siding on the outside, which again are also solar panels, and then complete the roof. One other difference in this design is the removal of vents from the roof and vents from something like a kitchen fan. We're still going to need to vent air in and out of the house, but it should be done in a much more controlled manner, and that's what I'm showing here is something just under the roof, something that would be computer controlled, where you're measuring the pressure of the air coming in, the air going out, keeping things in balance, and perhaps even sensing if there are pollutants in the air. Another possible configuration for the final product would be to not enclose what's underneath the house. I mean, if you put bricks or something else around the house, even for decorative purposes, you're inviting critters to come in and live under the house. Maybe people want to leave this open. Perhaps it's better to leave this open. But it would also do is remove the need for making sure that the land is sloped away from the house in all directions, though. Whenever it rains, it would just go right under the house. And here I'll finish up with the first picture I showed, which does show the underneath of the house completely closed off, or at least blocked from view anyway. People again can decide what looks better or what performs better in the future. So there you have it. There's my vision for how we could build houses in the future to make them more durable, get them off-grid, and also incorporate recycled materials. So thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please click like below. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.